Ashton Narek Gortham. Emthala Narek. The words escaped Miguel's lips in a guttural whisper that chilled my soul. It was 3:17 in the morning when I woke to that sound. My husband of 35 years was sitting up in bed, his eyes half open but clearly not awake, speaking in a language I had never heard before. A coldness ran down my spine, and I felt as if something heavy was pressing on my chest. When I touched his shoulder, he turned abruptly, and for a fleeting moment, his eyes. They weren't his. Dark, empty. That night, I knew something evil had entered our home. And the worst part, it came through the man I loved. My name is Antonia Ferreira. I feel it's important you know who is speaking to you, not just as a name, but as a soul who has lived a life full of both storms and sunlight. I have raised 3 children who are now grown with families of their own, and they have given me the gift of 7 wonderful grandchildren. Each morning, my first act is one of gratitude. Before my feet touch the cool wooden floor, I thank God for the simple miracle of a new day. My routine is a quiet prayer in itself. I wake before the sun, when the world is still hushed and bathed in shades of blue and gray. The house is silent then, holding its breath. I make my coffee, the dark, rich aroma filling the kitchen, a familiar comfort that grounds me. Then, I take my cup and my old, worn Bible out to the porch Miguel built for me years ago. It's my sanctuary. There, in my rocking chair, I watch the sun rise. I see the light spill over the horizon, painting the sky in strokes of orange and pink, and I feel the presence of the Creator in every ray of light that touches my face. I read the Psalms, their ancient words a balm to my spirit, a reminder that I am never alone, that there is a fortress and a refuge available to all who seek it. This is my life. Simple. Grounded in faith. Miguel retired from the factory 5 years ago, after decades of hard, honest work. He is a good man, a quiet and respectful man. His faith is like a deep, still river, while mine is perhaps more like a bubbling brook, always moving, always speaking. He doesn't always have the words for what he feels spiritually, but I see his faith in his actions, in his kindness, his integrity, in the way he has always provided for and protected our family. Our home has always been a reflection of that peace. It's a place where you can feel God's presence in the quiet moments. The smell of freshly baked bread on Saturdays, the sound of grandchildren's laughter echoing in the yard on Sundays after church. The Sunday lunch is a sacred tradition. The whole family gathers, chairs are squeezed around the table, and for a few hours, the world outside with all its troubles fades away. I have always been sensitive to the spiritual world. It is a gift, a form of discernment that God gave me. My children used to laugh and say I had eyes in the back of my head, but my grandchildren, they understand. They know that when they are sick, Grandma's prayers are the best medicine. They know I can feel their anxieties before they even speak of them. This connection has been my compass through life's darkest valleys. But in the last few weeks, that peace began to fray at the edges. It started with things so small you would dismiss them as forgetfulness. A set of keys not where I left them. The back door, which I always lock, found slightly ajar in the morning. I would feel a sudden, inexplicable chill in a warm room, a cold that seemed to come from within the walls themselves. Then came the more undeniable signs. The healthy, vibrant ferns I keep by the window began to wither, their leaves turning a sickly brown despite my careful watering. They looked as if something was draining the very life from them. One morning, I walked into the living room and my heart stopped. The small, wooden crucifix that has hung above our doorway for 30 years was turned around, facing the wall. It was a deliberate act. A desecration. A message. I felt a tremor of fear, but I pushed it down and replaced it with prayer. I walked through my home, quietly praying, asking for God's protection. But the heaviness in the air remained. It was a spiritual weight, a palpable presence that clung to the corners of the rooms like a damp fog. And it was thickest around Miguel. During the day, a new irritability settled over him. The patient man who could spend hours fixing a child's broken toy would now snap at the slightest thing. His laughter, once a warm and frequent sound in our home, became rare. He would sit for long stretches, staring at nothing, a deep, troubled furrow in his brow. But the nights were when the change was most profound. When he would come to bed, the atmosphere in our room would shift. It was as if he brought a shadow in with him, an unseen passenger that radiated a cold, oppressive energy. I would lie there, pretending to be asleep, and feel this presence settling over our bed, a suffocating blanket of gloom. My grandson Gabriel, who is only 10 but has the soul of an old prophet, came to stay one weekend. As I was tucking him into bed in the guest room, he looked at me with his wide, serious eyes. "Vovo," he whispered, his small hand clutching mine, "there's something strange here. The air feels sticky." Children and animals, they see what we adults have trained ourselves to ignore. Our little dog, Pipoca, who for years has slept at the foot of our bed, suddenly refused to enter our bedroom. He would stand at the doorway and whine, the fur on his back bristling, his eyes fixed on a spot in the room where there was nothing to see. He would back away, trembling, and go sleep in the hallway. That was when my quiet prayers became urgent pleas. "Lord," I would whisper into the darkness of my room, "show me what this is. Give me discernment. Reveal what is hiding in the shadows of my own home." I didn't know what I was fighting, but my spirit told me a battle was coming. The peace of our lives was the territory, and the enemy was already mapping its invasion. I share all of this because I know some of you understand what it's like to be the spiritual guardian of your home. It's a heavy responsibility, but also a great blessing. This channel is new, and it means the world to me to connect with you. Every single subscription helps us get closer to our first goal of 1,000 friends. If this story touches your heart, please let me know in the comments where you are watching from. Knowing we are a family spread across the world gives me strength. I could feel something approaching, a storm gathering just beyond the horizon of the visible world. My home, once a fortress of peace, now had a breach in its walls. And I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to my core, that I had to be prepared for whatever was about to come through. The feeling was no longer just a vague premonition. It was a certainty. I would be sitting on my porch, reading my Bible, and the words would blur on the page. A sudden sense of being watched would wash over me, and the beautiful morning would feel tainted, as if a cloud had passed over the sun, though the sky was perfectly clear. I started paying closer attention to the small details, the little shifts in the spiritual climate of our home. I noticed that the water in the vase of fresh flowers I kept on the dining table would turn cloudy overnight. A faint, unpleasant smell, like damp earth and decay, would sometimes linger in the hallway, only to disappear as suddenly as it came. I tried to talk to Miguel about it, gently. One evening, as we sat in the living room, the television murmuring in the background, I asked him, "Miguel, have you been feeling different lately? Is something troubling you?" He looked up from the newspaper, but his eyes were distant, unfocused. "I'm just tired, Antonia," he said, his voice flat. Just old and tired. But it was more than tiredness. It was a hollowing out, a gradual emptying of the light that had always shone within him. I saw it in his eyes. The spark was dimming. The following Sunday, after our family lunch, my daughter, Cecilia, pulled me aside in the kitchen. She was washing dishes, her back to me, but I could hear the worry in her voice. "Mama, is Dad okay? He seems distant. He barely said a word to anyone all afternoon." I'm worried too. As I knelt there, a scripture came to my mind, as clear as if it had been spoken aloud. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. In that moment, I understood. This was not a random series of strange occurrences. This was a targeted assault. The enemy had found a crack, a moment of weakness, and was trying to force his way in. The peace of my home had been shattered. A shadow had fallen over us. And I knew that my simple life of quiet faith was over. A new season had begun. A season of warfare. And I had no choice but to fight. The days that followed were like walking through a dream that was slowly turning into a nightmare. The spiritual pressure in our home intensified, becoming a constant, suffocating presence. Miguel's condition worsened. Every night was a battleground. He would cry out in his sleep, his body rigid with tension, his hands clenched into tight fists. He would wake up drenched in sweat, his heart racing, but with no memory of the terrors that had gripped him just moments before. It was just a bad dream, he would mumble, turning away from me, but I could feel the fear coming off him in waves. He was like a man haunted by a ghost he refused to believe in. During the day, the headaches became relentless. He would press his palms against his temples, his face pale and drawn. I would bring him water, a cool cloth, anything to offer some comfort, but the pain was beyond my reach. It was a deep, internal torment. The man I knew was receding, being replaced by a stranger who looked at me with a detached, almost resentful gaze. His energy felt wrong. It was heavy, dark, and it made the hair on my arms stand up whenever he entered a room. One evening, I was putting away his laundry, folding the shirts he had worn for decades, a simple act of love I had performed thousands of times. As I picked up the jacket he had worn to a doctor's appointment earlier that week, I felt something small and hard in the pocket. My fingers closed around it. It was a small, tightly wrapped packet. I pulled it out and held it in my palm. It was a bundle of dried, dark-colored herbs, bound together with a strange, waxy thread that was woven of two colors, a garish red and a stark, funereal black. The knot was intricate, unnatural. Tucked into the bindings was a tiny, folded piece of parchment. I carefully unfolded it. On it were written symbols in a language I did not recognize, drawn in what looked like dark, brownish ink. A faint, sickly sweet smell rose from the packet, a smell that was both floral and earthy, like flowers rotting in a grave. My blood ran cold. This was not a natural object. This was something else entirely. I felt a wave of spiritual nausea. This thing did not belong in my house. When Miguel came home, I waited until we were sitting at the kitchen table. I placed the small packet on the table between us. His eyes flickered towards it, then quickly looked away. "What is this, Miguel?" I asked, my voice quieter and calmer than I felt. He stared at the table, refusing to look at me. "I don't know," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "It's nothing." "It was in your jacket pocket," I persisted gently. "Where did you get it?" He was silent for a long moment. I could see a struggle playing out on his face, a mixture of confusion, shame, and something else. A profound weariness. It was as if he was too tired to fight whatever was clouding his mind. Finally, he spoke, his voice heavy with resignation. "It was Marta," he murmured. "She gave it to me." Marta. Our new neighbor. She had moved into the house next door about 3 months ago. On the surface, she was perfectly pleasant. She had brought over a welcome pie, she always smiled and waved when she saw us in the yard. But from the very beginning, my spirit had been uneasy about her. There was an intensity in her eyes that was unsettling, a smile that never quite seemed genuine. She was always there, appearing at the fence just as Miguel was heading out to the car, showing up at our door with a small pot of herbs she thought might help his aches and pains. Her interest in Miguel was particularly focused. She would ask about his health in a way that felt intrusive, her gaze lingering on him a moment too long. I had caught her more than once, standing at her kitchen window, simply watching our house. Watching him. She said it would help with the pain in my back, Miguel added, still not meeting my eyes. She said it was an old family remedy. An old family remedy tied with red and black thread? My spirit screamed a warning. This was no remedy. This was a Trojan horse. An object that carried a dark purpose, smuggled into our home under the guise of kindness. The line between suspicion and certainty was dissolving. That afternoon, a heavy silence fell between us. Miguel went to lie down, complaining of another blinding headache. I felt restless, agitated. I went to the kitchen to get a glass of water, and as I stood at the sink, I glanced out the window that overlooked our backyards. And then I saw her. Marta was in her yard, near the back fence that separated our properties. The sun was low in the sky, casting long, distorted shadows across the grass. She had arranged several black candles in a circle on the ground. In the center of the circle was something I couldn't quite make out. She was on her knees, her head bowed, her hands moving in a strange, weaving motion. Her lips were moving, and though I couldn't hear her clearly, the wind carried fragments of a low, rhythmic murmur to me. The sound was faint, but it was unmistakable. The cadence, the guttural tones. They were the same sounds that came from my husband's mouth in the dead of night. A profound, sickening clarity washed over me. This was the source. This was the open door through which the darkness was pouring into our lives. My daughter-in-law, Sophia, stopped by later that evening. She and Carlos had been worried, and she came with a container of soup. As we sat at the kitchen table, she looked at me with a mixture of pity and frustration. Antonia, she began, choosing her words carefully, Carlos and I think you're taking this too hard. Men Miguel's age. They change. They get depressed. Maybe he's just unhappy. Her words felt like a slap. Unhappy? After 35 years of a good, solid, loving marriage? It was a subtle accusation, a suggestion that I was somehow the cause of his decline. This was the micro-conflict, the worldly dismissal of a spiritual reality. Sophia didn't see a spiritual attack. She saw a failing marriage and an old woman losing her grip. It's more than that, Sophia, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. There is something wrong in this house. She sighed, a sound of weary patience. Please, just make sure he takes his blood pressure medicine. And maybe think about seeing a counselor. Both of you. She didn't mean to be cruel, but her skepticism was another wall I had to face. I was alone in this fight, not just against the dark, but against the well-meaning blindness of my own family. That night was the worst yet. At 2 o'clock in the morning, I was jolted awake by the feeling of the bed shifting. Miguel was gone. I sat up, my heart pounding, and saw him standing by the window. I got out of bed and went to the kitchen, and there he was, standing completely still in the center of the room, his back to me. He was staring through the kitchen window, looking out into the darkness in the direction of Marta's house. The air in the room was icy cold. Miguel? I whispered. What's wrong? Come back to bed. He turned around slowly, mechanically. His face was a blank mask, but his eyes were completely empty, like two dark holes in his head. And then he spoke. The voice that came out of him was not his. He simply sat back in his chair, his hands folded on his desk, and listened. The change in him was immediate and profound. A deep gravity settled on his features. The peaceful atmosphere of the room seemed to grow cold, heavy. When the recording finished, he remained silent for a long moment, then he let out a slow, troubled breath. "Antonia," he said, his voice low and serious. "What you have captured here is not just a language. It is a key. It is an ancient invocation, used in the darkest of rituals. The words are a command, a spiritual claim." My heart hammered against my ribs. A claim? What kind of claim? He finally opened his eyes, and they were filled with a deep, pastoral sorrow. "It is a ritual of transference. It is used to steal a person's life force, their will, their affections, and their possessions. Someone is not just trying to harm Miguel. They are trying to replace him. To take everything that is his, including his place by your side." In that instant, the last 2 months of my life rearranged themselves into a horrifying mosaic. Every piece clicked into place. Marta's constant, cloying presence. Her endless questions about our finances, disguised as friendly curiosity. The way her eyes would linger on Miguel's wedding ring. The remedies she brought over, the teas that always made him more lethargic, more compliant. The long conversations they would have over the fence when she thought I was out. It was a slow, methodical invasion. A spiritual poisoning. As if God wanted to erase any last shadow of a doubt, my son Carlos came to visit that same afternoon. He brought his youngest daughter, little Sophia, to see me. As we sat in the kitchen, he said, almost as an afterthought, "You know, Mom, it was strange. I drove by last week, when you were at your sister's house, and I saw Marta coming out of the front door. She had Dad's house keys in her hand. She looked like she owned the place. The blood drained from my face. She had been in my home. With my husband. When I was away. A cold fire ignited in my soul. It was not anger, not yet. It was a holy, protective certainty. I was a mother lioness whose family was under attack. I thanked Carlos for the visit, kissed my granddaughter goodbye, and as soon as their car was out of sight, I turned towards the door. I had to face him. I had to face this. But Miguel wasn't home. A deep dread coiled in my stomach. I knew where he was. I walked the few steps to the property line, my feet moving as if in a dream. And there he was. In Marta's backyard. He was sitting on a small wooden stool, his head bowed like an obedient child. Marta stood before him, her back to me. She was dipping her fingers into a small bowl of dark liquid and tracing symbols on his forehead. He looked up then and saw me standing there. A flicker of shame crossed his face, but it was quickly replaced by a dull, cloudy confusion. His eyes were not his own. They were foggy, distant, as if I were a stranger he was struggling to place. "What have you done to my husband?" The voice that came out of me was not the voice of a frightened old woman. It was steady, resonant, filled with an authority that surprised even me. Marta turned slowly, a cold, triumphant smile playing on her lips. It was a smile that did not touch her eyes. Her eyes were like chips of black ice. "He came because he wanted to, Antonia," she said, her voice smooth as oil. "Miguel is tired. Can't you see? He's tired of a long life with the same person, the same routine. I simply offered him an alternative." Her words were meant to be a knife, to suggest I was the cause of this, that my love was a cage he wanted to escape. But God shielded my heart from the poison. My gaze moved past her, to a small, crude table set up behind her. And there, my breath caught in my throat. On the table was an altar. Our wedding photograph was torn in two, the pieces laid side by side. Between them was a small, crudely fashioned doll with Miguel's name scrawled across its chest in that same brownish ink I'd seen on the parchment. Wrapped around the doll's neck, strangling it, was a lock of my own hair, taken, I now realized, from my brush in my own bedroom. All around it were half-burned black candles, their wax pooled like hardened tar. The evil was no longer a feeling. It was a sight. It was a smell of burnt herbs and bitter resentment. "This is witchcraft," I said. It was not a question. It was a declaration of fact, a truth given to me by divine certainty. Marta let out a short, sharp laugh. It was a sound completely without joy. "Call it whatever you like," she sneered, making no effort to deny it. "Some people go to church and beg their God for what they want. I prefer to use methods that are more direct. More efficient." Miguel said nothing. He just stared at the ground between his feet, a prisoner in his own body. The battle lines were drawn. The enemy was revealed. It was not some formless shadow. It was the calculated ambition of a lonely, bitter woman, who was using the powers of darkness to steal a life that was not hers. And my husband was the prize. That night was the longest, darkest night of my soul. Miguel came home with me, but it was like leading a stranger through my house. His spirit was absent, locked away somewhere I couldn't reach. He sat on the edge of our bed, not speaking, not looking at me, just staring at the floral pattern on the wallpaper as if trying to decipher a code. When I asked if he wanted dinner, he just shook his head slowly. The silence in the room was a living thing, thick and suffocating. When he finally lay down and sleep took him, the murmuring began again. It was louder this time, more insistent, as if the entity speaking through him knew it had been discovered and no longer felt the need to whisper. The strange, guttural words filled the darkness of our room, a language of chains and shadows. I did not sleep. I knelt on the floor beside my side of the bed, my body a tight knot of sorrow and resolve. I spent the hours in a silent vigil, my soul alternating between prayer and a flood of painful questions. How could this have happened in our home, a home consecrated to God? Why didn't I see the signs sooner? The guilt was a heavy cloak, trying to smother the fire of my faith. I felt like a watchman who had fallen asleep at her post. The enemy loves to use guilt. It is one of his sharpest weapons, designed to make you feel unworthy of God's help, to make you believe you are alone in the fight you caused. But I held on to the truth. This was not my failure. This was a war. At 3 a.m, the darkest hour, just before the dawn, Miguel sat bolt upright in bed. The sudden movement made my heart leap into my throat. He swung his legs over the side of the bed and stood up, moving with a stiff, unnatural grace. He walked to the window that faced Marta's house. "She is calling me," he said, his voice flat, devoid of all emotion. He was staring out into the blackness. I got to my feet, my old bones protesting, and stood between him and the bedroom door. "Miguel, no," I said, my voice firm. "You are not going anywhere." He turned to face me, and the moonlight streaming through the window fell across his face. His eyes were two empty pools of darkness. There was no recognition in them. No love. No memory of the 35 years we had shared in this very room. "You do not command me, old woman," he said. The voice was his, but the words were forged in a cold, cruel fire. "She wants me there." The word struck me with the force of a physical blow. Asterisk old woman. Asterisk in all our years together, through every argument and every hardship, he had never spoken to me with anything but respect. This was not my Miguel. And then I heard it. Not with my ears, but with my spirit. A voice, clear and powerful, resonating in the deepest part of my being. Asterisk, this battle is not yours, Antonia. It is mine. Asterisk, the weight on my shoulders vanished. The tears stopped. I took a deep, shuddering breath and slowly, deliberately, reached for my worn Bible on the nightstand. My fingers felt guided as I let the pages fall open. My eyes fell upon the passage, illuminated by the moonlight. Ephesians, chapter 6. Finally, be strong in the Lord and in His mighty power. Put on the full armor of God, so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. In that moment of total darkness, a brilliant light ignited within me. I was no longer a victim. I was no longer a grieving wife. I was a soldier being called to her post. I would not fight this battle with tears or arguments or worldly weapons. I would fight it with the power and authority that had been given to me as a daughter of the Most High God. As the first, faint light of dawn painted the horizon in shades of gray and lavender, a divine strategy began to form in my mind. It did not come in a rush of panicked emotion, but with a crystalline clarity, a sense of order and purpose that could only have come from God. I would not act out of anger or fear. I would act with the wisdom that comes from above. My first action was to build a wall of prayer. Before the sun was fully risen, I was on the phone. First, I called my daughter, Cecilia. I didn't give her all the dark details, not yet. I simply said, "My daughter, I need you to pray for your father. A spiritual battle has come to our home, and I need you to be a watchman on the wall with me today." Her response was immediate. "I'm praying, Mama. Right now." Next, I called Pastor Alejandro. I told him what had happened in the night, how Miguel had left. His voice was calm and steady. "Do not be afraid, Antonia. The enemy has overplayed his hand. He has revealed himself. Now, we move. Gather the elders. We will form a chain of prayer around your home that will not be broken." I was not alone. My army was assembling. Then, I began to prepare my home, to reclaim it, to cleanse it spiritually. This was not a performance, it was a series of deliberate, faith-filled actions. I went to the pantry and took out the small bottle of olive oil I kept, the one the pastor had blessed for me months ago. I took out the box of coarse sea salt. I filled a bowl with water and prayed over it, asking God to sanctify it for His purpose. I walked through my house, from room to room, and threw open every single window. I wanted the fresh morning air, the light of God's new day, to flood every corner, to chase out the stale, stagnant energy of the night. As the breeze flowed through the house, I walked, praying the words of the Psalms of protection out loud. My voice grew stronger with each verse. "The Lord is my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer. He is my shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold." With the blessed oil on my fingertips, I went to every door and every window frame in the house. On each one, I drew a small, invisible sign of the cross. I was sealing my home, declaring it as holy ground, a territory under God's sovereign protection. No unclean thing would be welcome here. I went into our bedroom, the heart of the battleground. I took my Bible and opened it to Psalm 91. "He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty." I carefully slid the open Bible under the mattress on Miguel's side of the bed, placing the Word of God as a foundation beneath him, a promise of refuge for his soul to return to. Finally, with the consecrated salt, I walked to the four corners of our property, sprinkling a small line in the grass at each point, praying for a hedge of fire, a spiritual boundary that no evil could cross. I was not just cleaning my house, I was fortifying a fortress. Just as I finished, Pastor Alejandro arrived, and with him were two of the oldest, most prayerful elders from our church. They didn't come in with a loud commotion. They entered with a quiet, powerful reverence. They stood with me in my living room, and we joined hands. Their prayers were not desperate pleas. They were declarations of God's power, affirmations of His victory. After a long time, the pastor looked me directly in the eyes. His gaze was filled with strength. "Antonia," he said, his voice resonating with spiritual gravity. "God has established you as the authority in this home. When the time comes for the confrontation, do not doubt. He will give you the words to speak and the strength to stand." A few moments later, Cecilia arrived. She didn't come empty-handed. In her hands, she held a small, silver picture frame. It was an old, faded photograph from our wedding day, more than 35 years ago. It showed me and Miguel, so young, standing on the steps of the church, smiling, our eyes filled with a future we could not yet see. "I was praying, Mama," she said, her own eyes filled with tears, "and God told me to bring this. To remind Dad and you of the covenant you made. A promise made before God. No work of darkness can break a covenant sealed in heaven." As I took the photograph, I felt a surge of power course through me. It was like every prayer being spoken for us, every act of faith I had just performed, was coalescing into a tangible strength. I was no longer a frightened wife or a grieving woman. I felt my spirit rise up within me. I was a warrior, clothed for battle, prepared to take back the ground the enemy had stolen. Later that afternoon, as I sat in quiet prayer, a verse came to me, as clear as if it had been spoken aloud right beside me. It was from Isaiah. "Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." That was my final confirmation. My marching orders. With that divine promise settled deep in my bones, I stood up. I knew what I had to do. I was not going to fight a woman. I was not going to fight a spiritual manifestation. I was going to stand in the authority of my God and confront the very darkness that was trying to tear my family apart. And I was not going to lose. O sol kamikeva a desker, pintando o su com tons de laranja e roxo, cores de fim de batalha. Cada paso que eu deva dirico a casa de Marta era pasado, mas firme. Eu neo sentia o cascalho sob meus sapatos nem a brisa fria de tarde. Eu sentia apenas o peso da autoridade divina sobre meus ombros e o fogo do Espírito Santo meu peito. Eu carregava no bolso a pequena foto do nosso casamento, sentindo suas bordas gastas contra meus dedos. Era mais do que papal, era a prova física de pacto celestial. A porta da casa dela estava entreaberta, como se me esperas. Ao entrar, o ar mudou instantaneamente. Era passado, denso, com cairo adocicado e enjoativo de ervas queimadas e cera derretida. As cortinas estavam fechadas, mergulhando a sala numa penumbra artificial que a luz do entardecer lutava para penetrar. No centro da sala, numa poltrona de veludo gasto, estava Miguel. Seus olhos estavam abertos, mas vazios, fixos number ponto invisível na parede. Ele parecia uma concus, corpo presente cuja alma havia sido retirada. Marta estava de pé ao lado dele, com uma mão possessivamente posada msu ombro. Ela se virou quando entrei, e seus olhos se estreitaram, caios de fogo que neo era humano. Era misto de fúria e triunfo. Você neo foi convidada, ela sibilou. a vos mais grave du que eu me lembrava. O som pericia raspar o, sus alhas esse fixaram na fotografia. Por segundo, apenas segundo, lampejo de luz atravesso a nevoa. Tremor percorreu seu corpo. Marta viu. Com grito de raiva, ela avançou para arrancar a foto das mãos dele. Mas eu estava preparada. No meu outro bolso, eu tinha pequeno frasco de azeite que o pastor Alejandro havia consagrado. Com movimento rápido, eu o abri e espalhei algumas gotas no ar entre nós. O Senhor muro de fogo e o nosso redor, declarei. Marta parou bruscamente, como se tivesse batido numa parede invisível. Ela olhou para as mãos, para o espaço vazio à sua frente, confusa e furiosa. A entidade que a usava estava sendo confrontada com uma autoridade que não podia subjugar. Você não entende com quem está lidando, ela sibilou, e sua voz mudou, tornando-se dupla, com eco metálico e frio por baixo de seu tom normal. E ele já meio. Sua vontade me pertence. Eu olhei diretamente nos olhos dela, mas não era para a mulher que eu falava. Era para a coisa que a possuía. Mentiroso, eu disse, com uma calma cortante. Ele pertence primeiro a Deus, que o criou. Ele pertence a si mesmo, pois Deus lhe deu livre-arbítrio. E o amor que nos foi celado no su e esta sob a prodigio divina. Você não tem parte nem sorte neste lugar. Eu me aproximei de Miguel, ignorando completamente a presença furiosa de Marta, que agora apenas nos observava, condida por poder que ela não compreendia. Coloquei minha mão suavemente sua testa. A pele dele estava fria. Miguel Torres, meu marido, nome de Jesus, eu quebro todo leco espiritual que foi colocado sobre sua mente, sua alma e seu espírito. Toda língua estranha que se levanta contra você é silenciada agora. Toda confuso e desfeita. Volte para casa, meu amor. Volte para si mesmo. Os olhos dele piscaram. Uma vez. Duas vezes. Uma lágrima solitária escorreu pelo seu rosto, trocando caminho limpo sua pele pálida. Ele olhou da foto para o meu rosto, e a nevoa começou a se dissipar, como o nevoeiro de manhã sob o sol nascente. Foi nesse momento que eu me virei para Marta. A fúria seu rosto havia sido substituída por algo que eu não esperava ver, medo. Pavor. A entidade estava recuando, diexando para trás a mulher quebrada que havia usado como portal. Isso não é só sobre o Miguel, eu disse. Minha voz agora caia de uma compexo que só Deus poderia me dar naquele momento. É sobre você também, Marta. Você está sendo usada. Você também está presa. E nome de Jesus, você também pode ser liberta. Por instante, toda a máscara de poder e maldade caiu. Viemos sus olhos uma dor tão profunda, tão antiga, que me cortou a alma. Não era apenas maldade que a movia. Era pouco de solidão e desespero. Você não sabe nada sobre mim, ela disse, a voz agora embargada, a voz de uma mulher, não de demônio. Eu sei que você procura no poder o que só o amor pode dar, respondi, mentendo a firmeza, mas sem pingo de odio. E o preco des poder que você usa a sua propria alma. Preco que você neo pode pagar. Miguel assim mexu na cadeira. Lentamente, como alguém que acorda de longo e terrível pesadelo, ele levanto. Ele alhu ao redor da sala escura, para as velas, para os símbolos desenhados no chão que neo tinha notado antes. O medo a confuso tomram conta de seu rosto. Ele estava despertando. A batalha pelo seu espírito estava vencida. Mas sabia, alhando para a mulher encalhada no canto, que a guerra pela alma dela estava apenas começando. Antonia? A voz de Miguel era sussurro rouco, frágil, como o de uma criança perdida que finalmente encontra o rosto de sua mãe no meio de multidão. O que aconteceu? Onde estou? Sus olhos, agora completamente claros e cheios de luz familiar que tanto amava, percorriam o ambiente com pavor crescente. Ele olhou para as fotografias nossas, rasgadas sobre uma pequena mesa de canto. Viu as velas pretas, agora moras poucas de cera fria. Seu olhar detive nos símbolos estranhos desenhados com giz no chão de madeira. Calafrio percorreu seu corpo, e ele instintivamente se aproximou de mim, buscando refugio. Está tudo bem, querido, disse, segurando suas mãos. Estavam geladas, mas podia sentir a vida voltando a elas. Nos vamos para casa. Enquanto o confortava, Marta permanecia encalhada no canto, imóvel. Era como uma tempestade invisível estivesse acontecendo dentro dela. O poder que a sustentava havia se retirado, deixando-a vazia, exausta e aterrorizada. Ela era apenas uma mulher, sozinha na escuridão que ela mesma havia convidado. Nos demos as costas para ser. Cada passo dirico à porta era passo dirico à luz, à normalidade, à paz. Mas então, a voz dela nos parou, grito desesperado e quebrado. Neo. Vocês neo podem ir. O ritual neo está completo. Ele tem que ficar. Me virai, a serenidade que Deus me dera permaneço. Neo havia raiva mim, apenas uma profunda tristeza. Está acabado, Marta. Acabou. Neo pela minha força, nem por qualquer palavra mágica. Acabou pelo poder de aquilo que é maior do que qualquer ritual ou encantamento. O amor de Deus é maior. As pernas dela cedram. Ela caiu de joelhos no chão, o som de seu corpo batendo na madeira ecoando na sala silenciosa. E então ela começou a correr. Neo era coro de raiva ou frustração. Era coro de desolação absoluta, som que vinha das profundezas de uma alma faminta. Entre solucos que secutiam todo o seu corpo, as palavras saíram, uma confissão dolorosa que explicava tudo. Só queria o que vocês têm. Six vocês dois, no jardim, rindo. Ele tru uma flor. Uma coisinha tão pequena. Mas vocês têm isso. Amor verdadeiro. Toda a minha vida. Ninguém nunca me amou assim. Ninguém nunca me tru uma flor. Naquele momento, compreendi. Compriendi o pleno divino msua totalidade. Deus neo me enviu alia penis para lutar por meu meri. E sentada na primera fila, com sorriso sereno e alhas caios de lágrimas de alegria, estava Marta. Ela neo era uma memoria de uma amica, mas a prova viva de graça de Deus, uma querida irmã nossa fé. Essa experiência me ensinou algo profundo sobre a natureza do mal. Ele existe, e opera neste mundo, neo tenho dúvidas. Mas sua estratégia mais eficaz neo a força bruta, e sim explorar as feridas que já existem dentro de nós. Marta neo buscava o mal pelo mal, ela buscava no ocultismo o amor e a asiataco que sua alma desesperadamente necessitava, algo que só encontrou no amor verdadeiro de Deus, refletido através de uma comunidade que a acolheu. Aprendi também que nossa autoridade espiritual neo vem de rituais elaborados ou de palavras grandiosas. Ela nasce na quietude de intimidade com Deus, na certeza inabalável de que ele está conosco, mesmo na mais escura das noites. A verdadeira batalha neo foi vencida com gritos, mas com a calma declaração de verdade. E o perdeu. O perdeu. Descobri que ele neo auto de fraqueza, mas a maior demonstração de poder espiritual que existe. Quando escolhimos perdor quem nos feriu, quebramos cadeias de amargura que neo apenas os aprisionavam, mas que também nos mantinham reféns do ressentimento e da dor. Hoje, quando olho para trás, vejo que aquela língua estranha que saia da boca do meu marido neo era apenas ataque do inimigo. Foi alarme divino. Deus permitiu que enfrentássemos aquela escuridão para que pudéssemos conhecer, por experiência própria, a incomparável magnitude de sua luz. E você que me ouve, talvez já tenha enfrentado batalhas que pareciam impossíveis. Talvez já tenha sentido que forças além de sua compreensão tentavam destruir o que você mais ama. Se você já viu algo assim, por favor, compartilhe sua história nos comentários. E esta mensagem toco seu coração. Considera se inscrever para que possamos continuar crescendo juntos em fé. Lembra se sempre disto. A vitória final nunca depende do tamanho do seu inimigo, mas do tamanho do seu Deus. A fé neo elimina a escuridão, ela a atravessa.